time to dust off your starter jackets, rip off those tearaways, and blow into your game cartridges. I'm Sam Blanford.
I'm Pat Sellers.
I'm Simon Blanford.
And I'm Sean Kelly, and we wish it was the 90s. Hello, dear listeners, and sincerest apologies for the lack of content of late. Those winter sniffles have really bogged the podcast crew down, and I guarantee you that is 100% related to us being a bunch of fathers. Today, we're going into a really special topic that Simon's going to talk about in a minute, but just off the top, I'd like to say welcoming us back. You could do that with by sharing us with your friends and maybe giving us a 5-star review or a comment here or there, or hit us on the socials. We really do appreciate it. We're now on the new, well, we're on X these days. Twitter is dead. Rest in peace, Twitter. But we've also joined Zuckerberg's version of Twitter. What's it called? What's it called? Threads. We're threading.
Nice.
Much like the needle on a well-sewn sports jersey. Over to you, Simon.
He's done it.
Just when you think we couldn't get any more professional, you bust out a segue like that. That's outstanding. Yeah, I think I'm kind of surprised we haven't done this already. The best 90s sports uniforms. This could probably be a 3 or 4 party. You could do worst sports uniforms in the 90s because there are plenty of those as well. All 4 of us were kind of obsessed with sports then and also now, but those sports uniforms are pretty loud and they sort of captured the imagination of lots and lots of people. So we figured it would be a really, really good idea to delve into the best sports uniforms of the 1990s worldwide. So it's a really exciting podcast for myself. How it's going to work, and I'm sure the other 3 will correct me if I'm wrong, but we will count down our top 5 and we'll just go round table and discuss what the jersey looked like or what the uniform looked like and why we loved it, what we sort of associate with that jersey, which players perhaps or memories. And at the end, we'll go over some honourable mentions as well, ones that didn't quite make the cut but we think should absolutely be talked about. Do you think I missed anything, guys, there in that little intro?
Nah,
bang on.
I guess a question I've got is, what did you guys look for? Were you looking for really, Pat, maybe you could go first, really bad jerseys or like memorable jerseys or like really, really cool looking jerseys? Because bad and cool also could go together.
Bit of a mixture. And then it was just more ones that were personally memorable. But I found, like, especially when we first started discussing this, I was almost thinking like beyond the jerseys or the actual sports uniforms themselves straight away, and you're thinking about all the other kit that you had, whether it's t-shirts, hats, your old bum bags and that sort of thing. And so it all sort of had it sort of went into everything. But it was more around the memories for me. So like I haven't selected what I think are just like genuinely the best in terms of design. It's more about a couple of them was more personal ones that probably not going to be on anyone else's top 5, but the other ones I just think hold a lot of memories from the 90s that I think should be in the
I went, for example, if you went for talk about the best, so if someone's done this, that's great, and I'm not going to judge them. But so, for example, the Boston Celtics jersey is one of the more iconic jerseys in the history of all sports. But for me, that really hasn't changed throughout history. That's been the same jersey. So to me, that's not really synonymous with the 90s.
Yeah, you're a mug if you put the Celtics.
Yeah, well, sure. But there might be another jersey on there that hasn't changed that much, but that team may have been more synonymous with the 90s than the Celtics. The Rick Fox, Dino Raja Celtics probably weren't the most memorable in the 90s. So that's just another thing I sort of thought about. What's more iconically 90s as opposed to throughout history.
Yeah, I think I did a combination of what you guys have said. So I put down a whole long list of jerseys I really liked from the 90s, and then I think what I've whittled myself down to is jerseys that when I see them, I think of the 90s. Or if someone asks me to think of a team, I picture their 90s jersey. That's sort of how I thought that's what makes it iconic, is it's what I think of either from that era or, generally speaking, that team. The other thing I did was I didn't double up on sports, because there's a couple of sports categories that I know we're going to talk about where I found it really, really, and I could have picked 3 or 4 just from that sport. Probably a bit like Pat mentioned, quite selfishly, because, I watched a whole lot of rugby league growing up.
It's a great segue, Sean.
Mm.
So should we go in the order that we introduced ourselves, just to make it easy for Simon?
Thanks, mate.
And it's a good segue, Sean, because I actually thought the best category of jerseys/uniforms were the 90s league jerseys. And my number 5 is, I have cheated a couple of times on this list, all right? And here's one of them. The 1990 to 1994 Canberra Raiders, which featured Video Easy sponsor early in the 90s and then changed to Canberra Milk. Both similar jerseys, lime green with the sponsor across the front. 3/4 sleeves, which was the style at the time, with blue, yellow, and white stripes on the sleeves. Some names that come to mind are Kenny Nagus, Laurie Daly, Brett Mullen, and Ruben Wiki in the centres.
Outstanding.
Yeah, you could name the whole team. You couldn't. What a pick! What a pick!
They won the Winfield Cup in '93 with the milk jersey.
I think Tina Turner was there, wasn't she? Was that 94?
She had a good 5-year run every year, wasn't she?
Yeah, R.I.P. Quentin Pongia, of course. Him and John Lomax were the props in that team. That was one of my honourable mentions, and I'm really glad you mentioned. If you do have a chance to look it up, loyal listeners, that white/blue/yellow/white on the sleeve, it just looks cool.
Yeah, it's real cool.
Yeah, this flows really nicely into my number 5, which. In part of my explanation, I mentioned the Canberra Raiders milk is probably a bit more recognisable. It's probably a bit bigger for the 90s than my selection. But there was 2 in that era where it's quite interesting with league. You always remember the sponsors that were splashed on the front. And I grew up a big fan of Matthew Ridge, and so I had the Manly big Pepsi logo. Yeah. We went on a family holiday and managed to get one duty free, and got home and I got the old lady to iron on a blue number 1. Yeah, very good.
Sean's
blue number 1 on the back so that I could be Matthew Ridge. And I think it was only a matter of weeks later that Matthew Ridge then signed with the Warriors. So for the next few years, I had to pretend that I was a massive fan of Shannon Nevin.
Oh, that's a great rant. Shannon Nevin, that is a deep dive into Manly folklore. Sean Bob was just holding up his Pepsi Manly jersey that he just showed with number 7 on the back, which, depending on what era, that was probably 2V at that point before it went into hooker, or I would say.
Yeah, well, believe it or not, in 1996, when I got that jersey, I had a strawberry blonde bowl cut, and living in Gingerton Isle, I thought I was blonde, and I thought I was Jeff Tuvey.
Most people you could be.
Sorry, did either of you? So, have we got 3 Manly fans on the podcast?
Yeah,
we do.
Is either of you?
I had Pepsi, but I had Seagulls in my honourable mention.
Yeah, I've got P&O in my honourable mentions. Probably just because I have a P&O Manly jersey.
I know the one. I've seen you wear it well.
Yep, yeah, about 8 sizes too big. But yeah, my P&O Manly is a prized jumper, and yeah, that was I have that on my honourable mentions. But obviously, the Pepsi jersey is a classic too. And now it's mine. I'm going to go non-rugby league, just to be nutty, and I'm going to go. This team had this jersey until 1994. And it was worn by a very young Dikembe Mutombo
I know exactly what it is.
and also Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. And it was a Denver Nuggets jersey that was white, but it had this, or blue, depending on the home and away, and they had the Denver Nuggets skyline in these sort of highlighted colours. Kind of more famous, I'd probably guess, an 80s jersey with Alex English and Kiki Vandeweghe and those guys, but this is a special jersey. Denver Nuggets 1993. If you have a look at that, it is a beautiful jersey. So Denver Nuggets 1993 jersey with the Denver skyline in the background. Sorry, yeah, Dikembe Mutombo, bright blue, absolutely fantastic jersey.
Honourable mention for me.
I've just pulled it up. That's a ripper. That's a ripper.
Rainbow stripes horizontally across the chest as well. Lovely touch, lovely jersey.
Wore it from 85 to 93, so more of an 80s jersey. So
there
you
it is.
cheated
Oh,
as
yeah,
well.
that is good.
Yeah, no, fair. That's why it's only number 5. If it was all 90s, it might be really, really high up my list. But that's why it only reaches number 5. And it's an honourable mention for you too, Sam, was it?
Yeah.
Good to hear.
Sean, Bob?
Okay. For my number 5 pick, I went a little bit outside the box here, but when referencing things that I look at and I see, I instantly think of the 90s. I went with the assorted red, white, and blue lycra worn by the American Gladiators.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know you guys have had me on about wrestling before, but I thought American Gladiators that felt like a sport to me.
And it's actually a team,
Yeah,
it's the Gladiators, so I think that's a really, really, really good shout.
We need to do an
Not
episode
an
on
honourable
that.
mention for me because I didn't think of it, but still happy with that.
excellent. I did toss up between that or the black and green spray paint of D Generation X, but I knew professional wrestling doesn't sit well with you fellas.
I'm going on to my number 4, and I'm going to stick with the NBA, and I cheated again here. I have 2 different teams, but the reason I have 2 different teams is they were both expansion teams in 1995, both very similar jerseys. I have the Vancouver Grizzlies and Toronto Raptors in their inaugural seasons. Vancouver Grizzlies aqua / teal / turquoise with white Grizzlies across the front. And the best part was the trim, which was like this little bear paw prints and a large Grizzlies logo on the shorts. I remember Big Country Bryant Reeves wearing that in his first year. And Toronto was purple with black pinstripes, large velociraptor across the front, which maybe Jurassic Park was quite big at the time.
I'll fill you in on that part of it. Yep.
Yeah, and I remember Damon Stoudemire wearing that in the early days.
I definitely had the Raptors as an honourable mention.
Yeah, I had the Grizzlies as an honourable mention. Just want to add something about that Grizzlies one there, Sam, because that's a great call. It was one of mine. There's actually this ridiculously massive grizzly bear on the shorts as well. It's fantastic. And the Toronto Raptors, to add to that Jurassic Park thing, so there's never really been much evidence of Raptors being in Toronto, but that they came out in 95, I think, was that expansion draft, or 96. But anyway, Jurassic Park was huge, and it was a fan vote on the name. And just because the movie Jurassic Park was big, now, 27 years later, they are still called the Raptors, despite there's no link at all to Raptors in Toronto, just Jurassic Park.
That's not too
Fair
bad. I mean,
enough.
the Utah is called the Jazz because of where the team started. Not a whole bunch of Jazz fans in the Mormon community, I don't think, but
And the Los Angeles Lakers are from Minneapolis, and there's no lakes to be seen in Los Angeles. So some terrible names in the NBA.
My number 4 is, I think this is also going to slide into that area of probably cheating. In one way, because a lot of the main reference probably starts in the late 80s, and it's also one of the team uniforms that basically hasn't changed ever, similar to what you're talking about for Boston. But what it did do was filter all the way through pop culture from the late 80s all the way through the 90s, and still is today. And basically that was down to NWA. So I've got the Oakland Raiders as one of the key sports uniforms for the 90s. No specific year. It was, probably the bomber jackets and your caps were probably bigger than the jersey itself. But Oakland Raiders, my number 4.
So much street cred if you're wearing that, round.
You say that through to today, but they are now the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'd love to go to a game in Vegas. That'd be man.
That's a great shout, Pat. I've got nothing to add to that. That's wonderful. And silver and black, absolutely epic uniform. Well, I'm going back to for my number 4 pick. I'm going back to the rugby league. With a little bit of similarities with Sam's, actually, with expansion teams. And my number 4 pick, with picture these vertical stripes down the chest: yellow, black, red, black, yellow, and then for some reason at the chest those stripes just stop and the rest of the jersey's white. And this is another reason that this has to be in the list as a 90s list. The big sponsor, Cash Converters, the Western Reds of the NRL/ARL, short-lived team. The Western Reds jersey as an expansion team was an absolute banger.
That's very good.
And that is my number 4 jersey. And I just think, that Cash Converters sponsor adds a little bit of a 90s factor to it as well.
Yeah, that's outstanding. That's the wacky Super League/ARL era brought out some really bizarre teams/jerseys.
Yeah, that was so bad.
Sorry, I don't want to step on anyone's toes here, but I thought you were going to mention a different team there. Crushers had the worst jersey, had the most ridiculous jersey I have ever seen. I'm just about to
South Queensland Crushers.
I just sent it to our chat. The most ridiculous jersey. They tried to pull off the teal and did not. Teal, purple, and grey.
Oh,
it's disgusting.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's fair. This one's pretty bad as well. I've got it up at the moment. That's Reds jersey.
Well, sticking with the theme of rugby league, but definitely not bad jerseys, I've gone for a very specific, and again, the sponsor is important. The 1992 Daryl Harrigan wearing Citibank North Sydney Bears with the red, the black stripes, and the white. And I'll have you know something very special about this jersey. 1992 was also the first year that indoor cricket teams started wearing coloured shirts instead of whites. And a direct copy, but with green, gold and white, was created for Valley Indoor Sports, the first coloured indoor cricket shirt worn at a tournament.
Wow.
Very good.
GK loved the Bears.
That's a wonderful choice. And that was definitely an honourable mention for me. Anybody else had that as an honourable mention? Citibank North?
Yeah.
And I also own that jersey, thanks to my cousin gave me that in the early 2000s. That was such a good pick. I'll even forgive Bob for calling Daryl Halligan Daryl Harrigan.
I did do that. I did do that. And I was like, did I just say that? And I was hoping no one noticed.
There's a few famous Harrigans in the 90s, to be fair, so that's an understandable era. Sam, are we up to number 3?
Yeah, no, I reckon this is the first one we're going to have some crossover with. I hope. Now, I was 3 at the time, so I don't remember it, but I've seen lots and lots of highlights. And this is Aotearoa's own, the 1992 Black Caps World Cup shirts.
The grey one with the flag on the shoulders.
All grey apart from the single blue, green, red, and white stripes across the shoulders.
Yeah, that's
interesting choices of colours, but awesome. I had fond memories of watching those highlights. Deepak opening the bowling. You know, your Great Batches, your Crows, your Murphy Sewers. Yeah, iconic. Probably not as iconic as the beige, but I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, I had that in my honourables, but I left it out of my top 5 because I knew one of you cricket nerds would have brought it up. So,
yeah, and
it's in my honourables as well. Just generally speaking, any of the grey kit they wore it till about 94, I think, variations of it.
And I'm just going to jump Pat in the queue because my number 3 is any 1992 Cricket World Cup jersey.
Oh yeah, Aussie was good too.
But like, if you folks at home go to 1992 World Cup, go to images, and there's a picture. I think it looks like it's in Sydney, and every single jersey, that Pakistan light green, that England like light blue, every
picture.
Every jersey is fantastic. And for some reason, it shows how amateur things were. Dave Houghton from Zimbabwe, he's wearing a vest in the picture. And you can't even see the Zimbabwe. Like, it's just, that adds to it. But every single jersey from that World Cup was an absolute banger. And
they all have the red, green and blue stripes.
Yes.
So that must have been something to do with it, eh?
Imran Khan, Aravinda de Silva, Graham Gooch, Alan Border. Not sure if that's Kepler Vessels or not. Mohammed Azharuddin, some absolute greats. I don't know the West Indies guy. Maybe Richie Richardson, I'd say. But yeah, all those jerseys, wonderful. So sorry to jump you in there, Pat, but I just thought I'd say exactly the same pick as Sam.
No, that flows nicely. Yeah, I'm just pulling it up there. I actually never realised that was it was kind of like a standard design, just changing the colours, and they all had that.
I don't think they stopped standardising the cricket jerseys until maybe the 2003 World Cup. I'm just bringing up 99. That's 99. Because 95 they were definitely standardised with like a striped number.
Well, you learn something every day. I'm going with my number 3, which I doubt anyone's got, and I don't reckon anyone will have an AB's jersey in here. But I'm going mostly because I always think of Christian Cullen always wearing this jersey. It's the white jersey, classic Steinlager, black collar from 94, 96 era. It was quite interesting. I always think about that jersey, and I always think of Christian Cullen. I was like, I bet you if I Google him, that'll come up. And if you Google Christian Cullen, the first picture of him playing is in that white jersey. Also, Tana recently gave it to Aquaman. I don't know if you saw that on the Tickety Talks.
I would like to mention that in my notes, I look, there it is right there. In my notes, I have written down white Steinlager All Blacks jersey, Christian Cullen.
Very good. Yeah. Looks really good after a really good session on I had good Hawk Spacer splashed across the front of it.
I'm going to segue back to the cricket chat, but I went with the black on the bottom, teal on top, fern in front, Black Caps jersey that I think they started wearing in 1997. I didn't check the year. I know they wore it into the 2000s because Chris Kens was obviously famously wearing it when we won the ICC Knockout Champions Trophy.
Yeah, I remember Glenn Solsberger wearing that.
That one was definitely consideration for me, Bob, and still I can't figure out whether I think I think that jersey's amazing looking or horrible looking. Like I really have no idea.
I don't have it hanging up, so I can't get it out, but I've definitely got the long sleeve knitted one-day jersey in teal, full teal, with a Heath Davis name on the back.
It's uber 90s, that jersey as well, I think is the key there. I think back in the day we would have said it was oosh.
Or rad. I think John Key in the flag referendum really missed a trick there. I think if he just kind of just used that as one of the alternatives, they might have got it over the line.
Yeah, he would have had a whole bunch of millennials voting for that.
Yeah, absolutely. We all would have.
100%.
I think I just flip-flop my 1 and 2. I just love my number 1 in it. No one else will have it. I guarantee it. And I think you'll have this one, Sean. But the 95 Auckland Warriors home EB Bitter sponsorship, dark blue with the green red V's across the chest, and a bright red collar. Enjoyed watching Dennis Betts and Sean Hoppy and Gene Namu run around in that. Maybe Mark Ellis even. Yeah, absolutely fantastic jersey, and I would buy one in a second today if I saw it going past me.
I've looked it up recently to see if you could get it on like Trade Me or anything like that. I found one on Marketplace and I messaged the guy and said how much, and he said sorry, I sold it last week for $750.
Oh, jeez!
Wow.
I think I've got one in a vacuum pack somewhere.
Give it to me.
$750.
That's definitely one of my honourable mentions. I went with the Citibank Bears over the Warriors just because when I saw that jersey, it smacked me in the face with a big 90s slap. But that is a great jersey.
Absolute ripper. Yeah, that's in my honourables. My number 2...
Sorry, I just wanted to go, like, when we talk about random colours and putting random colours together, no one ever thought, with a royal blue and a emerald green with a splash of red. No one ever thought that.
Dallas Mavericks?
No, that's right.
Sorry, Pat, as you were for your number 2.
Yeah. My number 2, I've got a feeling this could be a lot of people's number 1. And it definitely initially was going to be my number 1 as soon as we thought of this. This is what I thought of, and it definitely has a great team kit and definitely filtered through everything else. So I'm sure there'd be plenty of people out there that had a Charlotte Hornets Velcro wallet. So Charlotte Hornets throughout the 90s is my number 2 pick. Just great kits, great other supporters gears as well, with just with that aqua teal color with the purple. Just outstanding stuff and screams 90s.
I don't want to say too much about it at the moment because I'll probably come back to it.
He will. I bet he will.
Mine is it's my number 2 also. I'll let Sean extemporize on the Charlotte Hornets 90s stuff because there's no other man that can do it better than him. So that was my number 2 though, Pat, and I couldn't agree with you more. Sam, was that on your list at all?
No.
Were you? No. Controversial, but sure. I'll let you take away your number 2 then, Bob, knowing that I've said my number 2 also.
Before I jump into my number 2, I'd just like to point out that Sam not putting the Hornets on his list was a real dick move. Really disrespecting the 90s.
Typical contrarian Sam Blanford behaviour.
Yeah, I'm actually quite mad. But anyway, my number 2 pick, I've gone off script a little bit. I'd like to describe the jersey to you first. It's predominantly green. It's got a really nice yellow trim, but also with a hint of purple. You wear it out on the ice The Mighty
Mm.
Ducks.
It's my one.
Which Mighty Ducks?
Same.
The 92. Is that when it came out? 92? 93? I'm
The
obviously swimming.
Anaheim Mighty Ducks, did they
That's
come along
95.
after the movies?
Yeah. Disney
gives a-
owned the team.
Nutty.
Yeah, I've actually gone that as my number one. And I've just gone Anaheim. I haven't actually done the movie, which might be sacrilegious to some people, but I just think, as you say, the story of a team literally being named after a movie, and a 90s movie that we loved. And it's just a cool jersey. It's such a cool jersey, such a cool logo. And you just can't get much more 90s. So that was my one, Bob. And same as yours, Pat?
Likewise, yeah. I think you've nailed it. It was uber 90s. It was Disney after they released the movie, which was a massive hit. Like I said, I originally had thought Charlotte was going to be my number one, but after I had to think about that, it's like that's got to be the number one sports uniform from the 90s is the Mighty Ducks or Anaheim.
And the fact that kind of permeated New Zealand culture, where whereas every playground in New Zealand in the 90s, people were playing basketball. People were playing pretend rugby league or rugby or whatever, and ice hockey was never even mentioned really. Yet that still was able to sort of hit mainstream pop culture for us. I think shows a lot about just how cool that design was and how big those movies and just how nice that looked.
It's the strength of the Flying V.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, I had them as they were my number 5. I bumped them out for Canberra Raiders. Maybe I'm being a little contrarian. I didn't have the Hornets because I'd picked the Grizzlies, and I actually like the Grizzlies uniform better than the Hornets uniform. Sorry.
Erroneous on both counts.
I guess it's just personal choice. This one,
It is, but you're wrong.
my number one is look, we haven't said any football jerseys, not one.
An honourable mention, but I'm waiting.
When I say football, not NFL football, soccer.
I agree.
Right. I do have a few NFL ones as well, but my particular one is the England 1996 Euro shirt, specifically the David Seaman worn goalkeeper kit.
Yeah, that kit.
Mainly red with the 3 lions badge down the left. Bizarrely had lime green, yellow, and purple squares haphazardly splashed all over it. I think it was just made more amazing by David Seaman's outstanding moustache. But that was something that came to mind as soon as Simon mentioned the topic. I just remember I think David Seaman probably did wear a few odd ones, but this one really stuck in my mind. Look it up; it's ridiculous.
What is that?
It is absolutely insane. I've got this jersey in my life.
It's got the Lions logo sublimated on one side. I can't even work out what's on the other side.
It was
I've got
almost
so many
definitely
questions.
designed in Microsoft Paint.
Was David Seaman prominently involved in the design of these jerseys? Because there's a few nutty ones he wore, and he kind of was a bit of a, I don't know if a show off is the right word, but he had a big personality, and he was in media afterwards. But that is a crazy jersey design, and the '96 jerseys are pretty crazy too, just the normal ones.
Yeah. Agreed.
All of the lots of the England shirts from the 90s are really awesome, but also terrible.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was the famous one where they had they thought they were going to win, and as usual, they imploded.
How do you want to do the honourable mentions? Do you want to go through like sport by sport, or do you just want to
just let Bob? Just to go back, Bob, I think hasn't done his one, which we all know what it's going to be. But I'd love to hear Bob talk about it.
That's 2 strikes for you on the Hornets, Sam.
I thought we all talked about the
He's
Hornets.
genuinely mad about that. He's fuming.
I've got a quote here from reputable sporting website sportingnews.com from renowned sports journalist Todd Radom. In reviewing what made the uniform of the 90s so unique, we start with colours. Teal, silver, black, and purple to be precise. These were the defining pro sports colours of the decade. The roots of this lie in the wildly successful launch of the NBA's Charlotte Hornets brand in 1988. The previous year, fashion designer Alexander Julian was hired to design uniforms for the expansion Hornets. His design captured the imagination of the American sports world. If ever there was a tipping point that brought American fashion and American sports together, this was it.
Yeah.
He just
Very,
dropped his
very
mic.
good.
Yeah. I just a couple of things to add. I think also the collection of players they had. You know, everyone loved Muggsy Bogues.
Absolutely.
Alonzo Mourning had that pretty cool fade. You know, the high top. Larry Johnson was there for a while. Glenn Rice was always a real cool guy. You know, could shoot 3-pointers, which was also a thing we all like to do. You had your off the bench, your Del Curry, your 3-point specialist off the bench as well. They were a great team. And also the actual Hornet with those real cool fly eyes, dribbling the basketball. Fantastic.
The modern Hornet is a disappointment compared to the 90s Hornet.
They should just risk plagiarism and just do it. You can't beat it. So sorry, Sam. I think we have completed our lists, but boy, do we have some honourable mentions for you. Sam, do you want to take it away by sport, or do you want to just go round table?
Yeah, I think I reckon it's. We could probably go by sport. I reckon. That way, you can just instead of one person taking all the honourable mentions. Should we start with the NRL? Did anyone have any other NRL? I thought I believe it was St George Penfolds. Was a good one in the 90s.
Yeah, I had one of those.
Jersey's still very similar,
Wolford.
but yeah, I like the Penfolds jersey, very, very memorable. I thought the Hardy Eels was 90s, but I think that's 80s.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that really, but a lot of the more memorable ones from the 90s are a little bit of that legacy. So they weren't necessarily 90s. I really liked the Warriors Super League jersey. I thought that was grass, but it's not the same as the 95 jersey. Mate, share your wardrobe with me.
Yeah.
You got any, mate?
Look, but I think you just got to give a shout out to the wacky Super League era teams. All of them. Well, one of them made the cut here, but there was a range of them. You had the Crushers, the Reds, the Rams. What else did you have there? But
So Mariners.
The Northern Eagles that buried the Bears.
Yeah, that not Super League, the Northern Eagles, but yes, they were definitely there. I actually
90s because it was the only time they were around.
Couldn't disagree with you more, Pat. To be honest, I've said on my no Super League jersey they were all hideous. So I've written that down. I was staunch ARL man because I was a Manly fan, of course. Just on the league, I've got the Gold Coast Seagulls, like black and white hoops. Really like that. And then also the Gold Coast Chargers, which were a disgraceful franchise, but also just notable because they pulled out the teal as well. So in the late 90s, they wanted to keep the teal going.
I had a Seagulls jersey.
Yeah, the Seagulls was cool, though. That was really cool. But I think also a team that everybody hated, but a pretty iconic jersey. I think the sponsor was like Brisbane was it Powers or something like that?
Powers, yeah.
And they only started, I think their first year in the NRL was 88. So they're pretty iconic. Those early 90s, my first memories watching Brisbane and St George gutted out. Brisbane beating them twice in a row. So yeah, shout out to that Brisbane jersey as well. And that's, I think, all I had on the league front.
Yeah, should we move to basketball? Any other?
I had the Phoenix Suns.
It has to be.
Yeah, just I didn't do a lot of research into it, but it immediately popped into my head when I thought of 90s basketball.
That's fair.
Yeah,
I really liked Really like it was 97, 98. I had one of these. It was when Detroit had a real U-turn on their uniform, and they had a horse on fire on a teal jumper. Like Grant, I've still got it again up in a vacuum pack. I've got a whole bunch of stuff, and I've got one of those jerseys of Grant Hill's. That was a ripper.
It's a great shout. And I'm not a car expert, but that is not a piston.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it Detroit Cars Ford Factory Mustang? I don't know.
Oh, maybe.
Like,
What I'm also discovering during this chat,
if it is.
what I'm discovering, it sounds like Pat has easily the best collection of 90s sports uniforms. So we need to check that out because that sounds awesome.
I actually forgot one of my other basketball mentions because it's not an NBA team, but I certainly had written down as an honourable mention the Toon Squad.
Ah, nice.
Oh, nice. Yeah, very
nice.
good. Yeah.
Nice
The
shout,
Dream
nice
Team
shout.
should be in there as well. I don't think I wrote that down, but the Dream Team.
Yeah, it's a good shout. Sam, you got NBA one?
No, I had Detroit Pistons. I did forget one of my NRLs, the Penrith Panthers Dada from '92. Just throw that in there now.
Yeah. I think one that would be remiss in not mentioning, as far as the '90s. I mean, a lot of people also fell in love with the Orlando Magic in the '90s, and I know for yourself, Pat, that was your love for Penny Hardaway. The pinstripes were there. The M, and I think it was just a star, wasn't it? That was the A in Magic.
Mm-hmm.
Shaq, Dennis Scott, Nick Anderson. What a unit that was, and that's another one for me. And I grew up a Lakers fan, so I'm just going to mention that Lakers one, just specifically with regards to the purple and white trim. I was gutted when they got rid of that in about '99, and they just went straight yellow and straight purple. I thought that purple and white trim always looked really cool on your Nick Van Exels and your Cedric Ceballos of this world.
Obviously Chicago as well, because they were so dominant through the 90s.
Yeah, absolutely.
Black alternate away was good. The Chicago Bulls one.
Very
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, that was good.
Maybe
Did
we'll go
anyone-
to other American sports. So baseball, NHL, NFL. Were there any honourable mentions in those sports?
I had nothing.
No, I've got one alternative one is if you have a look through any images from the Atlanta Games, the Olympic Games in '96, just any country's tracksuits. They're all that real swishy material that you can light up pretty quickly if you get too close to the heater. Speaking from experience, there's some cracking tracksuits from that Olympic Games if you want to have a look.
It's a good segue to one of my honourable mentions for the Winter Games, specifically the fake 1993 Winter Games and the Jamaican bobsled uniform from Cool Runnings.
Great shout.
Yeah, that's good. I would have given you that if that was your number one. That's pretty good.
That's outstanding.
Yeah.
I don't have any American sports, but I have American-themed jerseys, if that counts.
Absolutely.
I'd like to mention the universal baseball-styled pinstriped uniforms that the New Zealand provincial cricket teams wore in the inaugural Cricket Max leagues, culminating in the Max Black's black and white version of that baseball Cricket Max strip that they wore when they took on the English Lions.
Nice.
Yeah. Great Max specialists like Carl Bulfin.
Was Petrie real good at Max? Cricket Max as well. I feel like he was real good at it.
He was, but I think Wellington's best player was down the ground Phil Chandler.
Lefty. Chandler. Anyway, we'll stop. We'll keep the Phil Chandler chat to a minute for
White helmet,
listeners.
Phil Chandler. I had a couple of American sports. Colorado Avalanche, really like their jersey. A couple of NFL jerseys from 1998. The New England Patriots, shiny blue jerseys with grey pants and helmet. They had massive Pats logo on each shoulder pad. That was, I think the Seahawks maybe took a few notes from the Warriors. They had blue jerseys with green trim, but
That's a
with
cool jersey. Yeah.
silver helmet, silver pants. Um, Steve Largent was one of the people running around in those. He's a good man, Steve Largent. Who
You'll know
says
Steve
it?
Largent.
Is that Gary
That's
Coleman?
Gary Coleman says it to Terrell Owens. Steve Largent's a good man. You'll know Steve Largent.
That's the only reason I wanted to put him on.
What about soccer? Anybody have any soccer jerseys? I've got a couple. I think this is very, very 90s. I've got the Liverpool Carlsberg sponsor jersey. That was real big. And I also like the alternate Arsenal yellow strip with JVC as the sponsor. I thought that was always a really cool jersey as well. So, yeah, I just love that Liverpool team with Nick Manning, Collymore, Fowler and that lot. So the Liverpool Carlsberg jersey and the alternative Arsenal JVC strip.
I had one of those, what are they called? Knockoff versions of that yellow Arsenal jersey.
Yeah.
Great
jersey. Yeah. We got any rugby?
I've got one rugby.
I've got one more honourable mention, and it's a rugby jersey.
So do I.
Yeah, same. I've got a couple of rugbies. I'll start with one, and then you guys, then I'll go Bob, and then Sam. I've got the Northern Transvaal Blue Bulls. Mr. Price sponsored. Mr. Price was the main sponsor. Had Blue Bulls logo on one chest. On the other chest had this weird, like Mr. Price red hat. And it's really popped with the blue of the Northern Transvaal Blue Bulls in 1997. So if you get a chance, have a look at that magnificent jersey. And just that red hat is so bizarre, but it must be something to do with Mr. Price, whatever that company was.
That's great. I've got, and I think it's probably 96 to, at least 97, maybe a little bit longer. But I have definitely got an honourable mention for the county's Manukau rugby team, with their assorted stars. A little bit similar to the Citibank Bears, but just what a great jersey. Little DB draft sponsorship on there.
And all the greats. Jim Coe, of course. First name that comes to mind when the 90s county's
Really worried.
Errol Brain.
Oh, there we go.
I was really worried you were going to take my last honourable mention, Bob, but you didn't. This is Super 12 rugby. The Otago Highlanders early jerseys, mainly blue, but with yellow, maroon, and blue stripes across the bottom. And then the pièce de résistance was the alternating small squares on the left shoulder. It looked like almost like a digital print.
I think reminds me of what's that Bricks game?
Minecraft.
Roblox or Minecraft.
The one where it comes down and you got to get
Tetris.
the shape.
Tetris.
Yeah, Tetris.
Even
like
earlier.
Tetris. Tetris blocks on the shoulder.
They all had that, for a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because those 92 World Cup ones, you look back and I just think, oh man, I love how homogenous they are because they're all so cool. But the New Zealand Super Rugby ones, they just were a bit weird, those early ones. I don't like pop in the same way. But my last honourable mention, it was a team that would just like crucified the Hurricanes in every semi-final, it seemed like. And they just ran rings around us. The ACT Brumbies. That was a really nutty little jersey. Blue on the top, 3 horizontal stripes, and then a Western Reds-esque white patch in the bottom half of the jersey. And, I think also the fact, Gregan, Larkham, Mortlock, Owen, Finnegan, they just every year we get our hopes up and we go over to Canberra and just get slaughtered by them every year.
Yeah, that's fair. They did. It's a great jersey. I 100% picture it. And what I've learned from this conversation today is that Pat should probably open a 90s merchandise shop and would make heaps of money. But if he was going to do that, he'd need a really good accountant. And that's why this podcast recommends Accountants Plus. Get in touch with our friend Jace if you're looking for some financial advice, or you're looking to start up a business, or you're getting into contracting.
What's that number?
555.
What is the fax
Insert
number?
phone
What
number
is the
here.
fax number?
Need Stratties to do that ad.
Stratties. Can we release that in our end of year greatest hits? Or our bloopers reel?
A bloopers reel? Yeah, we should have a bloopers reel. That's real 90s.
Way too long. Way too long. Amateur hour. Anything else to add? That was really enjoyable, lads.
I'd love to hear from our, anyone really. If we've missed something off that's worth mentioning. Be great to know. Although this is a dangerous game because I spent a lot of time last night window shopping online, and I might need Jace to get me a loan. Does he do loans?
Yeah, I was a bit scared to keep surfing. I feel like I was going to end up buying a starter jacket.
Yeah, I'm very worried about all these rabid Illawarra fans talking to us about how do we leave the BHP Steel Illawarra jersey off.
Cheers.